Righto, Year 9, let's have a look at the next exercise, exercise 8F, factorising monic quadratic trinomials. First of all, let's have a look at this word, or these words here, monic and quadratic trinomials. Now, monic just refers to the number in front of the leading term. So let's make up an expression, x squared plus 2x minus 4. Now, that is a quadratic trinomial. Why is it a quadratic? Because it's got an x squared at the front. It's a trinomial because there are 3 terms. Now, it's monic because the coefficient of the x squared, the leading term, is 1. It's a monic quadratic because it's got a power of 2 trinomial. 1, 2, 3. Now, let's have a look at how we work this out, or how we're going to do this. First of all, let's go back, and I'm going to use the example that they've got in the textbook here. And in the textbook, over here, they take this, x plus 2, x minus 4. Now, we know how to expand that. 2 things by 2 things, I'm going to get those 2 and those 2. And we've done lots of these. So x times x gives me x squared. X times negative 4 minus 4x. 2 times x plus 2x. And 2 times negative 4 minus 8. So I get 4 things, but of course, we can simplify those 2 because they're like terms. So I get x squared plus 2x minus 8. Now, I really want you to look at the number in front of the x and the number at the back. They're very important. Let's have a look at what we started with. X plus 2, x minus 4. And now let's also look at these 2 numbers. Well, if I add these 2 together, if I sum 2 and minus 4, if I add them together, 2 and minus 4, I get minus 2. And straight away you can see I've made a mistake because that was minus 2x. And if I find the product, if I multiply them, 2 times minus 4, I get negative 8. So you can see that when I expand, the thing that goes in front of the x is the sum of those 2 numbers, and the constant term at the end is the product of those 2 numbers. Now, will that work for anyone? Well, let's try x plus a, x minus b. And if we expand this, we'll get x squared minus bx plus ax minus ab. Oops. And I can collect those like terms, so I'll get x squared. I'm going to just factorise the x out, and I'll swap them around, plus ax minus bx minus ab. And then I'll factorise the x out of this little thing here, and I'll get plus x outside of a minus b, or I can say plus negative b, because that's what I want, minus ab. And as you can see, this is the sum of these 2 numbers, and this is the product of these 2 numbers. Now that's going to help us. Let's have a look. So, in 8F, and we're going to do 3, 4, 5, 6, they start by doing expansion. Well, we don't need to go back and do expansion, nor are we going to do these. And we start with question 3. Factorise each of the following quadratic expressions in which C is positive. Well, let's just factorise them. So, and when they're saying C, because they're talking about the general form, we have ax squared plus bx plus c. So all they're saying is the thing at the back, the constant term, is positive. So let's have a look at the first one. So this is 3c. And I've got x squared plus 7x plus 6. Now, this number is my product, and this number is my sum. Now, I have to find two numbers. And it's going to be x and x that multiply out to positive 6 and add up to positive 7. Well, let's just look at the factors of 6. There's 1, 2, 3, and 6. Now, do any two of those numbers add up to 7? I'm pretty sure 1 and 6 do. So why don't I try x plus 1 and x plus 6. 1 and 6 add up to 7, and 1 times 6 equals 6. So what you're looking for is the sum and the product. Okay, let's do another one. I want you to do some of these, so I'm going to do, I will do 3F. Now I'll jump down and I'll do 3L. So here, x squared plus 11x plus 24 equals, well, it's going to be x and x. Now, do I need to write all the factors of 24 out? I pretty much know them, but I will. 1, there's a lot. 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 3 8s, 2 12s, and 24. Now, do any of those numbers add up to 11? Any two of those, and they have to be so either 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8. Beautiful. So plus 3 plus 8. 3 times 8 is 24, and 3 plus 8 is 24. So I've been able to factorise it. Okay, what happens when I get to 4 though? Let's have a look at 4b. Oops. Now, I've got x squared plus 1x. Well, there's no x there. What number that? Yeah, well, we know there's a 1 there. Minus 2. So I need something that adds up to 1 and multiplies out to minus 2. And straight away we know to get a negative, one of them has to be positive and one of them has to be negative. So let's set it up. X plus something, x minus something. Well, this is pretty easy. The factors of 2 are 1 and 2. But I've got to get a positive 1. I've got to get a positive 1. So if I go negative 1 and positive 2, that adds up. So plus 2 minus 1. 2 times minus 1 is negative 2, and 2 plus minus 1 is positive 1. Let's have a go at 4c. X squared plus 4x minus 5. X squared plus 4x minus 5. Well, again, I know that it's going to be x plus something and x minus something because the product of the two numbers is minus 5. Well, I'm lucky again because there's only 2 factors of 5. They're 1 and 5. And I've got to get it to add up to plus 4. So the bigger number has to be positive. So minus 1 plus 5. So I'll put the 5 in and the minus 1. Now this is all pretty easy, you should be thinking. It does get a little bit more complicated. I'm going to do for E. What have I got? X squared plus 2x minus 15. Now, by the way, we're hoping that all the answers are not fractions. Imagine we could have a half and 30. We're pretty lucky that happened. So here we go. Again, the two numbers that I need are going to multiply out to negative 15. So I have to have a plus and a minus. And they've got to add up to 2. So I can have 1 and 15. 2 doesn't go into it. I can have 3 and 5. Okay, but the positive, I have to get a positive answer when I add them together. So the positive number has to be bigger. So it's going to be minus 3 and plus 5. Plus 5 minus 3. So you have a go at 4 on your own. Now, I'm going to have a go at 5. Now the difference here, watch this, is 5. I'm going to start with 5b. And it's x squared minus 2x plus 1. So again, I've got a product of 1 and I've got a negative 2. Oh, what do I do here? Well, the two numbers must add up to a negative number, but they must multiply out to a positive number. Well, that can only mean one thing. They can only multiply, they can only be two negative numbers. So x minus something and x minus something. That's the only way I can get a positive product and a negative sum. And I'm lucky, negative 1 and negative 1. So I'm going to x minus 1 and x minus 1. Product of 1 adds up to negative 2. Let's have a go at 5. I'll do 5i for you. X squared minus 5x plus 6. X squared minus 5x plus 6. Same thing. It's going to be x minus, because I've got to have a product, a positive product and a negative sum. So I can have 1 and 6. Oops. I can have 1 and 6 or 2 and 3. They both have to be negative. Well, negative 1 plus negative 6 is negative 7, but negative 2 plus negative 3 is negative 5. All The last type that I want you to be able to do, and I know that I put down question 7, but if you can get through to question 6, that'll be fine. What happens in 6b when I have x squared minus 3x minus 4? Well, I have a negative product and a negative sum. As soon as I have a negative product, I know it has to be x plus something, x minus something. So that means I have to have two numbers who multiply out to -4 but add up to -3. Well, I can have 1 and 4 and 2 and 2. Well, if I have a -1 and a +4, well, that adds up to +3. And if I have a -2 and a +2, well, that adds up to 0, and it doesn't matter. But what if I had a -4 and a +1? Well, that multiplies out to -4 and adds up to -3. So x plus 1, x minus 4. And I'll have a go at 6i and then see if you can do the rest by yourself. X squared minus 4x minus 12 equals, well, x plus something, x minus something, because I've got a negative sign in there, and I have to get a sum of -4. Well, let's look. I can have 1 and 12, and they're not going to add up to 4. I can have 2 and 6. Oh, that looks a bit interesting. What if I had -2 and +6? No, that doesn't work. That adds up to +4. What if I had +2 and -6? Yes, that multiplies out to -12 and adds up to -4. And that's my answer, x plus 2, x minus 6. Now you need to practice these lots and lots. Good luck.